Yeah.
I'll call the meeting to order for the Community Life and Public Safety Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2025 at 5 p.m. Everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Hey, Lopez Ferrero,
Here.
Traveling,
Here.
Clark, Salata.
Here.
Anthony,
Here.
and Mark Carnes, and he's not on the committee. Olson,
Here. Right, and just to clarify, I see it says vacate, is that supposed to be
it
vacant?
should be vacant.
Okay.
Put that in.
Okay. All right.
Inky.
Yeah, I was like, okay,
Thank you.
all right. Public comment. Is there anybody here that wants to give public comment?
I do believe there's a person online that is looking to make a public comment.
There's that hand up.
Yeah, so. Vern M, if you can take yourself off mute, you are able to make a public comment.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. Jim Punson, 5002 Arrow Street. So the comment that I have here, a couple of things. One, I'm disappointed that the village president is a member of this committee, yet he never finds it important enough to attend any of the meetings for this committee. And then furthermore, his attendance or lack thereof is never recorded in the minutes. It's never written that he is here or isn't here. So I wish the minutes would be updated to reflect his absence. Two, at what point will there be any interest in making recommendations to the Board of Trustees on matters relating to the safety, welfare, and liability within the village, specifically code violations that are years old? We've got things in code violations to include buildings that are structurally deficient and falling down that have been there for over 2 years, mold issues in buildings, fire alarms inoperative. Like none of this stuff seems to become a priority, or it's just so when we get to it, we get to it. I find that very disturbing. And then three, why has the trailer park code deficiency list not become a standing agenda item here at Community Life and Public Safety? Stillwater Landing was on the brink of not getting their license renewed by the village board either last year or the year before, due to the extremely poor conditions in the park. And I would think that directly relates to Community Life and Public Safety and what this committee is all about. However, there's no talk at all ever about the trailer park situation in the village of Weston. I think this would be a perfect standing agenda item to have on there so that it can continuously be reflected upon and say, hey, we're either moving in the right direction or the list is shrinking or it's growing. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online? Anybody else in person that wanted to give public comment? All right, thank you. Item number 4, minutes from the previous meetings.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Barb,
I will second that motion.
second by John. Any discussion? All those in favor of approvals, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any written communications? All right, acknowledge reports from departments. Item number 5, code enforcement update.
There is an update of the code cases as they stand right now in the packet. In regards to the trailer parks, the mobile or manufactured home parks, by the time this committee had been created, they were actually on Travis is in there every year annually and they were improving. So we really only bring this to the committee when there's an issue. Like we brought the, unmute me, please. Roman needs to be unmuted. When there was an issue, so they've been actively working with us on things. So we didn't think it was a problem. We can surely put that on there. Roman is on and is gonna have an update regarding the Aspen Street apartments. Essentially, a lot of these things we have to kind of, they become delicate situations where you kind of have to spend a lot of time working through them. You're taking people's homes that they could potentially be kicked out of because they're of the condition. So as long as somebody's working with us, we don't want to displace. So I think that's the big thing. But when we get to a point where we can't work with someone, that's when we would bring it to the committee and to the board. So we did bring the Aspen Street apartments to the board. They changed ownership during part of it, so he has an update. He was actually there on Friday, so. Roman, can you speak?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Fire Marshal Christensen and I met the manager of the facility over there and the individual who takes care of their maintenance on Friday. We walked through all 6 of the buildings. We'll be updating a lot of stuff for those cases this week, since it was Friday. I did not get an opportunity to update the cases prior to tonight's meeting. But all of the mold has been removed from, I shouldn't say all, but there is definitely a vast improvement to the mold situation in the basements of those structures. The new ownership is investing quite a bit of money into the apartments. So just years and years and years of neglect. There's a lot of stuff that they're doing. All brand new fire alarm systems have been installed in all 6 of the apartments buildings. There's plans for a lot of exterior repairs and improvements on the facility. So it's trending in the right direction. I was very pleased with the amount of progress that they had.
Any
Okay.
questions for them?
Roman, was there any major violations outstanding yet there that you noticed?
There's definitely some drywall issues in the basement that they're continuing to work through with the ceilings in particular. A lot of it is leaking plumbing pipes over the years that have caused the drywall to fall off or become removed whenever they needed to access a plumbing trap for a main floor bathtub. So there is still some items that they need to take care of, but the really serious stuff, they're really have made a lot of improvements with it. So they're chemically treating any of the remaining wood that is in the basement, but I did not expect it to be as good as it was. So, but there are a few, things that they need to take care of still.
Anything else from anybody? I would just say, I guess and I'm sure you are, just to stay on top of it, so we continue to note that there's improvements continuing and that we're continuing to report back on this until all the issues are remediated would be appreciated.
Absolutely.
Does anybody want to make a motion to acknowledge the report?
I do have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, an update on 3020 Mount View. This morning, I put an email into the county and the tax deed transferring ownership to the county was supposed to be completed today. I asked what next steps were and did not get an email back on that because I know that Roman wants to get in there just to see, because I'm guessing it's going towards sheriff's sale. So we need to find out if it's actually needs to be raised, which then we would be coming with asking for a raise order on the property, or if it is okay to actually have somebody purchase it and fix it up. So that's kind of where we're at. So I will just keep asking the county where they're at on that.
I have a knowledge.
We'll make a motion to acknowledge reports.
Motion by John,
Second.
second by Katrina. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Unfinished business, item number 6, discussion and or action on draft, please slow down for children playing door hanger for neighbors. Would like to tackle that.
Jamie just unmuted, so I'm thinking
Okay.
her.
Jamie?
I do have an RFC in the packet and a draft attached. I had noted in the RFC that I did show it to the neighborhood that had requested it, and the neighbor was supportive. If we do like the design, we would order a quantity of these and then advertise that they would be available at the municipal center. And residents could come pick them up, or even if they had made a request and for some reason couldn't distribute it, we would try to work with them if they would like to distribute them in a neighborhood. So tonight, if we're comfortable with the design, we'd be looking for a motion to order a quantity and have them at the municipal center.
Any questions? That motion.
I'll make a motion, that we order the door hangers. Do I need to specify a quantity?
No.
Because I don't know.
No.
Whatever's appropriate, so that they're available for, neighborhoods to come and use.
A motion from Katrina. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Barb. Any discussion on this?
I'm hoping they're, I don't know if, how effective.
Yeah, I see this more probably effective in this type of a situation where we have a 1 block, 2 block neighborhood that's experiencing some type of an issue, and they can kind of hand these out kind of as a passive aggressive way of saying, let's be good neighbors to one another here.
I may need one.
Cause obviously if you just go hand these out on Schofield Ave, that's a little different. Yeah.
And the neighbor that came to the last meeting, she did purchase one of those kid-friendly signs and she put it out at her property and she said it has made a difference. It's just called attention for neighbors to notice. So I agree with the comments that it is about just being good neighbors.
I noticed that I drove through that neighborhood today and as soon as I turned onto the street, I saw that sign. It like triggered to me like, oh yeah, like it does its job. It's just kind of a reminder, so. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. New business, item number 7, discussion and or action on neighbor request for reduction in speed from 35 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour and or changes to permanent signage on Mallard Court from Alderson Street to end of court.
I guess I can lead this one off. We did have a resident come in with some current concerns about speeding on Mallard Court. Maybe similar to our discussion last meeting. The only reason you drive down Mallard Court is if you live down Mallard Court or you're visiting somebody on Mallard Court or in that neighborhood. I believe the police department did set up a speed trailer out there. Those statistics are in the packet. It appeared that the majority of traffic was driving in that, 35 to 40 mile an hour realm. And then there was one person caught going well in excess of 35 miles per hour at 68 miles per hour. So I don't know what, Chief Hunt has a different opinion, but it seems like there was maybe one bad character going through that neighborhood consistently and.
Just a couple quick comments.
Yeah.
So this was actually, Mitch was actually the one sitting out there. He's one of our sergeants. And so we have one speed trailer that we acquired and we deploy it in different areas. But the reason this person got a speeding ticket is because they were sitting there and it wasn't the speed trailer. So sometimes you have one bad person in the neighborhood. That is a place that's outside of our normal area that's patrolled. So maybe it's just something we have to hit on a day-to-day basis. So as far as putting the speed trailer up, we haven't done that yet. I don't believe. It just was Mitch sitting there, so.
Yeah, I think even just having the presence there, and like I said, if the majority of the vehicles just looking at it coming through are, within about 5 miles an hour of the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. It seems like most people are, that he was able to obtain while sitting there was at the appropriate speed or within what would be expected. I know there's.
Is that the one concern, just the one person?
Well, I think sometimes you don't know which car it is, right? Like you're maybe in your house. Or into oncoming traffic. Huh. It stopped and started for a quick second there.
Yeah, looking at these numbers, I mean, I think if you did any neighborhood street, any neighborhood, you'd get the same results. And the guy going 68 is gonna go 68 no matter where he is, you don't care.
Yeah,
So I just don't think it justifies a change in speed.
We can,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay, go ahead.
we could, set another officer there and come back to the next meeting. So at least we have some more data that's in there. And I can try to get a couple of segments and a couple different dates in there just to see what happens again. Then you guys have a little bit more data to look at instead of just 1 month segment kind of in there, so.
yeah.
My question was, does it qualify for,
It's been 35.
I mean, for 25, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I guess that's where, and that maybe alludes to some of these other requests too, like when we go to look to change a speed limit, you're supposed to be doing a kind of a traffic analysis study to go over the contributing factors. Generally a speed limit is what's comfortable to a driver. So if so usually the 85th percentile is used to measure how quickly or, what speed people feel comfortable driving through a neighborhood at. So if the majority or super majority really of people are driving in that 40-mile-an-hour range, 35 would be justified, and 25 would be hard to explain. Because if everybody feels comfortable driving at 40, setting it to 25 all of a sudden now creates an uncomfortable feeling for a driver.
It dealt something with how many residents it was along.
Yeah, I mean, access points, the number of turning movements expected, those things all play into it as well.
Because I know on my street, they've been wanting it lower. I don't think the people that are going down there are gonna make any difference, but it doesn't qualify because they're spaced out.
Correct, yeah.
Katrina.
I did speak with a resident who lives in that neighborhood, also not off of Mallard, but deeper in there. And he felt that for the most part, people are respectful, but there's a few bad characters that can be troublesome. So he didn't feel that it necessitated changing the speed, but maybe some more monitoring would change some behaviors, similar to the discussion we had at the last meeting, I guess, with the kids playing on the road.
Yeah, I know even like on Northwestern Avenue, this past year, we did install kind of just a permanent radar sign. So as you're coming in from Wausau, we were getting a lot of complaints there. And I think as you're coming down the hill there, it would be easy to come a lot faster as you head into the residential area. So, this is another spot where after that long straightaway, a little bit before you hit that, maybe, that's another good location where we can install one of those permanent signs just to help people acknowledge like, oh yeah, I need to start braking.
Yeah, I drove through there today, and I mean, that first half or more is mostly, water and very sparse driveways. And it's not till you get to random that you start having housing, and by then you probably should be braking because you're coming up to a hard corner. I made myself drive 25 and it felt very awkward because of how open it was, so it didn't feel natural to me, but I also see unless I'm looking at this wrong, it looks like part of this is a shared roadway with Schofield, so we would probably have to get them involved for.
Yeah, a little bit on that initial. Was it maybe an eighth of a mile or so? Yeah.
So, yeah, either way, just my observations. Any other discussion? Sounds like what I'm hearing are people are kind of thinking maybe have the police department do some continued monitoring, I guess. Does anybody have a motion one way or another?
A motion on that, just allow Chief Hunt, conduct that patrol for another month or two, and we'll take a look at it at our next meeting.
A motion from Olson,
A second.
second from Katrina. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, discussion and/or action on neighbor request for potential change in ordinance regarding roadside fence height.
I have an RFC in the packet on page 19. The situation with the road fence, I don't know if the residents had managed to make it to the meeting tonight, although they were planning on attending. But there's a roadside fence installed 2 feet behind the sidewalk at 8505 Hinter Springs Drive. And they don't feel that it is safe to navigate that corner because it is a 6 foot tall privacy fence. I've got some pictures in the packet, starting on 22 of the fence. And then we can get into specifics if anyone has any specific questions on this. Katrina, I know you had emailed this morning about this agenda item.
Yeah, so my question was, you gave us that information on the triangle effect. I don't know if you can apply that specifically here because it's a curve. But it was one of my emailed with Rowan was to ask if the setback, the fence setback. Is it within?
Yeah, so I added that, I put that in there because just for clarity's sake, it doesn't, I don't believe it applies since it is just a curve in the road. It's not an intersection. So as the ordinance is written, it's the vision triangle is specific to intersections. And then this is currently a 25-mile-per-hour road. Michael can speak to the specifics on width of pavement for this. I know it's a reduced right-of-way in Hinter Springs. I believe it's 60 feet.
Yeah, it is 60 feet. I guess it's got, the sidewalk itself is 5 feet. The boulevard is 10, maybe even 10 and a half. Then it's a 2 foot mountable curb and 24 feet of pavement. So it's however the math adds up, 12 plus 2 plus 10 plus 5. Does that get you to 30? Maybe that's 29 and then there's a foot of right of way behind the sidewalk that's left, so.
How tall is that fence? I don't understand. Probably on your.
It's 6 feet.
6 foot.
So hypothetically, we entertain changing the ordinance. And we put that to the village board and they decide to change the ordinance. I would assume we wouldn't be going back and telling this guy now to take his fence down that we approved him to have in the first place. He did everything right, paid for it. So like, I mean, I'm assuming we're not gonna retroactively go back and say.
You can't,
Yeah, so that's, I mean, I don't know that that's gonna solve the problem.
Yeah, this is part of the zoning code, so, we actually did recently just change the fence ordinance, and so this actually fit both when it was installed and what, right now, if it was supposed to go. But essentially, the way that the zoning code works is that it was whatever it was at the time that you install it. So you can't retroactive, like we've got differences in houses. Some of the older neighborhoods have like a 25-foot house front yard setback. We've had a 30 for a number of years. You don't make them move their houses or anything like that. There are some regulations on what they can and can't do built into the code on certain things, on adding on and things like that. But basically it would just become a legal non-conforming fence is what it's called.
If he replaced it, he'd have to go with the new code.
If something, yeah, well, depending, I have to look at that on how, I don't know how fences work exactly. A building, you can put it back to where it's at, but
The basic, biggest thing was when cars parked alongside the edge was the hardest part to navigate through there, right? For the complaint.
I'm not sure what the complaint was on this specific. I mean, later on, they are talking about that. This is an active construction site, basically, so
So-
it's getting less and less where there's the construction vehicles and their trailers out there and less people parking on the road. So we've all kind of been through there as staff. I mean, I was out there when we were taking our potential new hires through here and saw it. So if you're traveling at the appropriate speed, I'm not exactly sure, like none of us could really figure out what the issue was because you still can see when you're driving around and you're supposed to be going 25. So the idea of some of these curves are to calm traffic. So
Well, that's what I was thinking. I thought, well, somebody had to be on the wrong side of the road. Unless there was parking there. Maybe
So,
parking around that corner.
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Travis and Roman are in there daily, so they might have a little bit more. This
yeah,
area.
I mean, the picture that's up on the screen right now, that truck on the right-hand side of that picture, is routinely parked there. So, and they're free to park along the street there. So, if someone's coming around the curve at too high of a speed, it can be an issue, but I mean, we're typically going less than 25 through that. If there's another car parked on the other side of the street, from that truck that's in the picture, we just proceed with caution. The resident that lives about 5 houses down to the east said that they were almost in a head-on collision on that curve there. So there was multiple people that wanted us to discuss this particular fence. So
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly always have a future discussion about if we wanted to restrict any parking along that section, but as far as the fence, I think we're trying to change something after the fact, that's not gonna solve the actual problem, or at least the perceived problem.
It needs code if there's nothing further to do on regarding the fence, I don't think.
Well, it wouldn't solve this fence, but would it solve if we're getting where it's curved, I know when you're have a front setback, there's a difference of what the height of the fence,
Side yard.
right?
It's still gonna probably always kind of look like this because of just how those lots are. So they're just going to be kind of a little bit strange because this one has so much street frontage, this lot. So we have a few of them, we've got a few that have like street sides on 3 sides. I know out in the Brame subdivision, there's one where it's like right when you come into that subdivision, there's a fence right up to it. It's a 6-foot and it's on a corner. Yeah, so it's just some of these unique situations here. This subdivision, for whatever reason, everyone has a fence. Most of the subdivisions, if we don't see a lot of fences. So this one just seems to be one where there's a lot of fences out there. The current builders actually that were looking at Granite Ridge are finishing up this subdivision, and they had asked if they could put restrictions because they just didn't want all the fences. They, okay, but
Well, isn't there a setback along the street? I mean, your front yard? I didn't think.
it's not a front.
Be a
The
side
side
Yeah,
yard.
this is a
Street
side
side
yard. I mean,
So
there's-
we haven't for a number of years because in some of those situations, it looks really, really strange because their backyard might be a street. So you want a 4 foot in your backyard. So that changed, oh goodness, before the new code even changed. That changed. So this new code is from 2015. That changed prior to that. Just because there's just some of these unique lot situations that have really big frontages. They've got side streets. And the way they situate the houses, that makes it look like they don't center the houses on the lot a lot of times.
And yeah, in a case like this, we would request that the driveway be as far away from the intersection or the curve as possible, which inevitably puts that side yard closer than to the intersection.
You said the construction's going on and now it's just making the parking worse. Is it construction vehicles that are parking there? Or is it-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in part of the northern part of this, there's multiple accesses into this subdivision, but the northern part is
There's
under
actually
construction right now.
There's two houses going up right across from this house right now.
Could we possibly, I mean, just something as simple as asking the construction foreman that, hey, can you have maybe people park a little further away from the curb while you guys are working? I mean, that might resolve some of it too, if we think the curve is being maybe overpopulated with the construction.
I don't know if that's the issue on this one. There's another agenda item for this subdivision talking about parking on one side of the street. That's more of the issue with that.
When I drove through there today, this early afternoon, there were no cars parked in this corner at all. I found it, I mean, I obviously went in there knowing about this fence, so it caught my eye, but I found it easy to navigate. But again, there weren't vehicles on both sides. I think a lot of times with these flat curb areas, people tend to park too much into the road and not utilize some of that shoulder space. But yeah, it's one of those things that you have to slow down for the corner and just make sure you're safely navigating. I obviously don't drive through there every day like some of these residents, but if you go around the corner on I think it'd be the north side, there's some building going on and you've got trucks parked facing every way and trailers everywhere, so it's pretty active over there.
Yeah, and in any given house, you might have the drywaller, the electrician, the, carpenter, you got 6 different trucks for the same house and they're all just scrambling to try to find closest spot possible.
Any further questions or thoughts? Does anybody have a motion they want to make on this item? As far as the fence height, I should say.
So I'd say I just don't know that we have any action to take. Do you need a motion that we're not gonna do anything? I don't know.
Otherwise, I guess if we don't have a motion, it just.
No, where they're at.
Yeah, I guess if you wanted to make a change, then your motion would be to send your recommendation to the planning commission, because they're the ones that have to actually change the zoning code, but yeah, if there's nothing.
And then the planning committee hasn't seen this.
We just made an update with the fence in August, so they've recently reviewed that section of the code.
Any motions? Otherwise, I'll move on.
I guess I just had kind of question of, should we send it to the planning commission for their review?
My thought would be no, because it's been recently reviewed and this is not a typical situation that we encounter in lots of places. Like, this is very specific to this specific neighborhood. And I drove through there also and did not find it difficult to navigate. That curve with the fence, and I would compare it to when you go down that street and make the next curve. The hump of the yard on the corner houses and some of the houses, you could say obstruct your view going around the curve. It just, so I don't think we need to make any more noise about fences or having them reviewed, in my opinion.
Good if we move on, Barb? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 9, discussion and or action on neighbor request for alternate side of street parking year round for high density neighborhoods.
I think this kind of came along with that last item a little bit about having people park on alternate side of the road. The only one we have is during winter, we do have alternate side parking in place during the day for snow removal operations, just so we, can get a snow plow through down the road on some of these streets. Like I said, the inner spring streets are 24 feet wide. You can drive up onto the curb. You can, people can pull over a little bit more. Historically, the village or the town of Weston even built roads that were 22 feet wide. They were 11-foot lanes with essentially a 1-foot shoulder and then your ditch that dropped off. So we have a lot of neighborhoods that are at 22 or 24 feet of pavement throughout the village of Weston. So I guess the Inner Spring subdivision isn't maybe unique when you look at the village as a whole, where a lot of our residential streets are 22 to 24 feet wide. So I guess, I don't know, this is the first time in 15 years I can think of somebody asking about daytime parking all year round, but curious what your guys' thoughts are. Or if you've ever experienced issues trying to get through. I mean, sometimes a graduation party or something like that on a weekend can clog up a road, but you should be able to at least get one vehicle through the middle.
Discussion?
Guess I don't see a real reason to pursue anything further.
I can share. So my perspective as somebody who visits Wausau a lot, they obviously have year-round odd even parking. I think it can be confusing to people to have to remember like, oh, what day is it? Is it an odd day or an even day? I'm going to bed. What day is it going to be tomorrow? And then to know like every neighborhood I'm going to, I have to know, is it a high density neighborhood versus a non-high density neighborhood? So I have to pay attention for those specific, because then we would have to, I would assume, sign specific neighborhoods that we consider high density, so people know that. I think it would probably not have the desired effect. That's just my perspective. And we do have as far as snow removal, because sometimes streets tend to start to get narrow when there's a lot of snow building up on the side, but as far as during the rest of the year, I think most of our streets, I looked on GIS because I was like, what other streets are 60 feet? And obviously you get over into the older parts of the village, there's a lot of 60-foot streets or right of ways.
Yeah. And the right of way is one thing, it's how big you actually build the road. I mean, we have 80-foot right of ways with a 22-foot wide road in them, so.
Okay. Any other discussion, thoughts, motions?
I mean, I hate coming onto a street where there's parking on both
Yes.
sides. But I don't know, like you said, it can get confusing as to which side of the road. I mean, I'm lucky they park in the yards. Even the neighbors, yeah, but.
hear anything, I'll move on. All right. Item number 10, discussion and or action regarding electric bikes, trends in popularity, safety concerns, and potential interest in municipal ordinance. Jamie's off now, right?
Yeah, I think she is. I think she just put this in here to start the discussion. I know we're getting some feedback in the bike ped plan process. And there's an open house this Thursday for the community at Dale's Weston Lane, so we'll probably hear some more. But there was a question that was asked in the survey that went out for the bike ped plan. Kind of, since this is newer, we're starting to see a lot more. I mean, I watched people zoom by on their scooters out front. You're seeing more of like the high school students taking them to the school, that kind of thing. Many communities are starting to talk about this and talk about ordinances. There's the city of Sun Prairie is doing a webinar and coming up here next week, kind of talking about it. So it's not something just that our area would be potentially looking at. So I think she wanted to put this out here just to kind of get your thoughts on it, to see whether or not we should start looking at a potential ordinance or just researching a little bit more. She did have some questions in there too.
Do we have, I didn't look through our ordinances. Do we have an ordinance that allows bicycles on sidewalks in Weston?
I don't think they're supposed to be on.
I know they're not supposed to be on sidewalks, but like a municipality can permit them in certain areas or.
I thought, because there was a motorcycle and bicycle one that was under the police department, but I don't know if we've ever touched
Can I,
that.
just answer a little bit?
Sure.
So with the Village of Rothschild, bikes can ride on the sidewalks and they can also ride on the roadway because they can act like a pedestrian on the roadway. I believe Weston's, don't quote me on this, is the same way as Rothschild's is on it. My only comment with the e-bikes is I would like to see some action on it even tonight. Because what's happening is they're not e-bikes because they've taken the pedals off them, they've turned them into e-motorcycles. So we have a number of e-motorcycles that are operating on the roadway and e-skateboards and e-single-wheeled vehicles and motorized wheeled vehicles. I think that the starting point should be on the motorcycle part of this. If it has pedals on it, then you're looking at the different classifications that are here. And I'm not a proponent of licensing these things because who's going to enforce it? Because I'll tell you, the police department isn't going to enforce it. And if somebody comes to our community and drives in, because I was reading the ordinance that was there, and if you drop your bike off in Wausau and you want to ride to Ringgold and you want to get onto the Mountain Bay path, well, as soon as you come here, now you're in violation. But I think we should be targeting e-motorcycles or anything that doesn't have a pedal on it, because if it has a pedal, you can ride it or assist it. But now, anywhere in Wausau, there's like Death Grip, for example, up there by Marathon Park, they're pushing these electric motorcycles and their dirt bikes is all they are. So we see 3 of them on a regular basis in Kennedy Park and they'll ride on the sidewalk with them and they're
I don't think they're.
e-bikes
So
or
we have-
motorcycles.
We have a mini bikes and self-propelled devices.
Correct, but
It's under
they call
Article
them e-bikes, but they don't have pedals on them.
So class 1 and 3 seems to be like the ones with all the throttles, so that would.
Those are bicycles with pedals, but with an assist on it. And there's just different speed classifications on it.
I would have to read through the statutes carefully on this because I remember we went through this a few years ago. I know that when these started to become popular, the state passed law, this from my memory, that says e-bicycles are afforded the same rights as regular bicycles, but they have to follow the same laws and everything. But as the chief mentioned, when you start taking the pedals off, it's no longer an e-bicycle, it's modified into something else. And then you get into the varieties of scooters, one wheels, all these other things that are capable of getting pretty fast.
So maybe it's just adding another definition in here,
Yeah, cause we,
because there's already, I mean, that would kick out a bunch of stuff right
I
there.
think it has to be defined as what an e-bike is and isn't. Yeah.
Right, but I just think that there's another definition, because right now it already states that
yeah,
they're not allowed.
yeah, under the self-propelled device does mention electric motor driven. And then, I mean, it even says motor bicycle, for what that's worth. Then operation, it says, you know, they're,
But we
no
don't,
person shall operate one upon any public highway, street or alley. I mean, this essentially says they can't use it anywhere unless the vehicle is registered. So yeah, maybe there's some verbiage here to clean up and,
but the way that reads, no e-bike is allowed unless it's a registered
correct, yeah,
vehicle.
that's the way it reads right now, yeah.
Yeah. So right now, they're not allowed.
But 346-806 sub 2 says any person operating an electric bicycle is not subject to provisions under chapter 341 or 343, which is registration and operators licenses.
But that's a bicycle, not a
Yeah.
motorcycle.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, I think we're blending some.
so it's trying to find that balance of what's the definition of a bicycle and what's the definition then of the
E-bike.
mini bike or self-propelled bike.
Cycle.
Cause I know the state trails, I had a neighbor, before these e-bikes became so popular. He was disabled but yet he wanted to keep exercising. And he had a very early e-bike, electric bike. And he had to get, in order to go on this trail by me, he had to have a disabled sticker on it before the state would let him use that trail. Cause it was electric. It wasn't just a regular pedal bike. But then they became a very popular thing, and I don't know what Mountain Bay Trail, how it's worded now.
So, speaking from my experience living on the path here, I don't think the e-bikes or any electric thing that goes over 15 miles an hour should be allowed on the walking paths, because they fly by there like they're a car. And, if you're like, just when I am pulling out of my driveway, for instance, I can see for a ways, it's a lot different reaction when I have a bike coming at me or somebody walking versus somebody coming 30 miles an hour down that path. There's not a lot of time for reaction, and there have been a few times when we are lucky that the bike hasn't run into us coming up to exiting our driveway, or vice versa. Because you can only see so far out of the driveway in some circumstances along the road because of trees and other growth that's happening. But as a person who also walks on that path, when you have somebody that's zooming past you like feet, I mean, that path is, I don't know how wide it is, but it also,
And I think it's 10 feet.
when somebody zooms past you at 30 miles an hour, it's frightening. And I'm an adult. If I had kids or a dog or is walking anything, it is just an accident, in my opinion, an accident waiting to happen. And I think if you're going that fast, if you're going as fast as a motor vehicle, you should be on the road. But there are other devices. There's a guy that rides his, I don't even know what they call it. It's a one wheel balance board thing.
It's called the one wheel.
But when I have seen him, most of the time, he is actually on the road in a bike lane. And that I appreciate, and that's where I think they belong.
All of our surrounding communities dealt with e-bikes to this point to having that really. Anybody know?
The rest of ours haven't caught up. Technology has changed and it hasn't caught up yet. I just looked this up on the internet quickly here and it said, can e-bikes ride on sidewalks? It says no, e-bikes generally are not allowed on sidewalks in Wisconsin, though some cities have specific ordinances that allow them in certain situations. But I thought it was kind of funny, some municipalities like Wausau may permit them on sidewalks. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Only where bicycles are allowed on sidewalks.
So I
which is
think
only
it's
a
up-
select few places.
I think it's up to the ordinance and the municipality to make a determination on that. So I think this is a great place to start for us as law enforcement to get something out there for us.
Well, yeah, because it's spooky enough when you're walking on those trails and a regular bike comes
Yeah.
up past you and you don't
You
realize.
don't hear it.
Yes, and it's, I'm always waiting to jump right in front of it.
Yeah, well, there's a guy that rides a scooter, it's a sit-on scooter that's, I guess a road-worthy scooter, but that goes equally as fast, and then it's the same thing, riding, you should be on the road on that thing, not on the bike path, or the walking path.
So Jeremy, for tonight, would it be easier to add on to
Oh,
or start a separate e-bike?
I was a little scared of some of the stuff in this ordinance because I don't know how they're gonna enforce it and some of it's that registration and I just think there should be a general ordinance.
E-bikes.
Jen is really good at adding things into different areas, but I think should be a good definition and some of these other things like the one wheel should be included in that and I agree. Bike paths, they shouldn't be on there. Some sidewalks probably not as big a deal as others, but I think we should start someplace and get an ordinance going on it, so.
I think even if we start with a new ordinance, we'd still need to clean up some language in this one, because otherwise I think they'd be conflicting on each other.
Well, yeah, and are you saying no e-bikes on trails?
Well, I think I agree with the trail like on Camp Phillips Road and some of those places because one of the complaints I had was somebody that rides a bike on a regular basis, and this has happened to me on driving horses on the road and stuff. They'll come by you and they're so silent that when they come by you, nobody knows they're coming by and there's no conversation. It's just, hey, I'm gonna whip by everybody and those paths are designed for walking, not for transportation. The road is a transportation way, not the sidewalk. And
Well, the only reason I ask that is, well, she isn't well enough now, but I have a neighbor that she would go on that Mountain Bay Trail and she'd go all the way out. I mean, way out, out to Hatley, whatever, and she is really disabled. I mean, that is her only.
But I think we're missing the point on it. The point is we're talking about different types of vehicles that
Right.
aren't assisted vehicles. These are different vehicles like one wheel. I mean, how many disabled people are gonna ride a one wheel?
Right, but I'm
And
just,
you're gonna ride a scooter and how many people are gonna hop on a longboard that can go 35 miles an hour that's battery operated and some of these other things. I think the definition has to talk about class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes and anything not in that class is not allowed.
Could there, sorry.
No.
Could there be, without getting too deep into specificity, but could we make exceptions? In the case of somebody who's disabled, can we make the general rule that they're not allowed, but if you have a disability?
like I said, my neighbor got a
Right,
disabled.
where you potentially could be allowed on certain.
Right.
Be cautious because you might not be able to ask them what their disability is.
I know, I thought it was interesting too, I don't know if it was in the one that was included in here, or a different one that I was reading, a town or a city had said, they're not allowed with the exception of like kids 12 and younger and or with an adult, a responsible adult. Because one of my kids had an early e-bike and just to cruise around on a farm. And at 10 or 12, I probably don't want him on the roadway. So then I could see maybe I do want some access to a sidewalk or, the bike lane is. I don't know how you differentiate. That accommodated.
Well, some of it is, from my recollection, some of it is defined by state law because a sidewalk is one thing, a multi-use path is something else. So Camp Phillips here, multi-use path is different than a sidewalk in front of homes. and where it's placed. And so different things could be allowed on those. From my understanding, you know, state law says bicycles are not allowed on sidewalks. Municipalities can allow them. I don't know where Weston stands on that, but I think the biggest thing I agree, I don't like it. I don't like when I'm on a path and all of a sudden a bike comes flying by me. I walk the Eau Claire River Trail a lot, and that's a whole nother thing, because it's parked, but there's e-bikes that fly by me on there too. So I think there is a concern. I just want to make sure that whatever we do does not accidentally trump state law and then makes what we're doing null and void anyway. So my suggestion, and you guys let me know how you think about this, I think we probably need to send it back for some more well, maybe with some guidance on what our desire is, just to make sure that our ordinances are in line with everything. And
You wanted something.
I would like a starting point that we continue to explore the ordinance and continue to evolve and change as discussion takes place. So another quick thing here, it says the Village of Weston is illegal to ride an e-bike on a sidewalk. I'd have to see if it reads it in there, but that's a Google search on that.
Yeah, I thought you weren't supposed to.
In the
write
Village
it.
of Weston. But I would like to see an ordinance on it, because I don't want to write state violations on this. I want to write ordinance violations. And so that's one way that we can do that, is if it's in the ordinance book.
Do you know if I know my wife has an electric bike or pedal assist, I guess you'd call it. So like this one here where it talks about speed, I think is maybe one of those things where, again, I guess that we just talked a bunch about speeding on roadways and who's gonna sit there and enforce if a bike is going 20 or 10 miles an hour on a path. But you know, there are ways, you know, there's a speedometer, you can see exactly how fast you're going. I don't know if a one wheel or some of these other things, if people know how fast they're actually going.
scooters typically do. I don't think one wheels do, but scooters tend to have a
Speedometer.
Yeah.
What, quick question on that is, how fast does a normal bicyclist go on the road when they're on those race bikes?
They can go probably 20, 25,
Oh, I think they're probably
more.
35 or 40 miles an hour.
Depending on
Some of
how,
those are.
in shape you are.
Yeah,
they all have to follow the speed limit, same as a vehicle.
Yeah.
but they don't have speedometers.
Yeah, I was just thinking for like the case of where, you know, it's maybe I'm thinking of like the situation where it's maybe more like a Rothschild where you're going through like Gasca Park because you're trying to get from Alderson Street over to Volkman. You know, there's not necessarily a roadway there, so you take a trail, you know. Or like the Eau Claire River Trail, I think that's one where that's probably a pretty easy one to say you just can't go through it.
Yeah.
You know, but some of those, somebody on a bicycle and be like, hey, I'm trying to get from
Yeah.
neighbor to neighbor and I'm gonna turn off the e-assist and I'm just gonna bike through there, like.
Well, I don't know.
You allow public commentary during the discussion?
Typically not, but we're not in, we don't have a motion, so I'd be happy to hear what.
Jim came with Town Weston, and I live right off of Gooseman Road. And we've done, obviously, way too much of a nice job with that road this year. We've been dealing with one guy all fall here, and he's a younger fella, but he's got one of them that Chief Hunt is talking about. It looks like a little mini bike. It's a white and black one, but it's an electric. That kid passed my wife going down Gooseman. She was at 52 miles an hour and he passed her with that thing. So it goes over 52, it's probably 55. Now, if he just passed her and he'd be riding it, it'd be one thing. He jumped up into a handstand after that and he followed that through for a few hundred feet. He'll come past the house, he'll be doing wheelies. Sometimes he's got one person with him, sometimes he's got 2 passengers on that thing. He lives over by Macmillan or someplace back in there, I don't know where, but that's where he comes from. So these are not regular, what you're referring to is an e-bike, a pedal assist and such. These are like, I don't know, they look like a little enduro, like from the good old days, you know, except they're quiet, they don't make any noise, they don't have any lights, they don't have anything. But anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just talking and thinking at the same time, I hope. To me, electric bike or what, a motorized bike, unless you're disabled, should not be on these trails. That's just my thoughts.
I agree with Chief that we need to start a process of getting an ordinance in place, but I think we also need to be intentional about it. I don't know if we want to think of some sort of public input on this, because I mean, those bikes are pretty pricey. And I know that I'm sure there'll be people who feel very strongly one way or another. I just think before we just decide to say, no, we're not gonna allow it, we should at least in some format, try to get some sort of public input, because I mean, these things can be a couple $1,000 a piece, these e-bikes, and I just think before we just start to say, no, you shouldn't, we should get some sort of input in some way, and I don't know if maybe Jamie's survey is already gonna get us enough data to really.
Yeah, I don't know. The two questions are listed there. So
yeah,
the
the
one
question-
question is, do you use any type of electric assisted device? And the other one is asking how comfortable you are with them on sidewalks and trails.
So that might not get us what we're looking for. I mean, we all have an opinion on it. I certainly have an opinion on it as well, but I want to make sure that we're not making a decision based on our personal opinions. We're supposed to make sure we're trying to, you know, represent the whole. So I guess I can understand the chief wanting to get something to take care of these knuckleheads right away, and I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong. But I also just want to make sure we do it right. Like Luis said, make sure we're not, you know, counteracting state statute. As we're looking for what we want to do.
Is there a possibility where we could invite, Weston has a pretty active bike group, don't they?
Yeah, so they're actually involved with the plan. So the Wassa Wheelers. We also have the, I can't remember what they call it, but it's the group that rides around. They take, like the elderly on those little, I don't know what's called, but
Kind of like a rickshaw.
yeah. So they were at the last meeting. We had an actual like kind of focus group meeting last week with them. So they're a part of the process, and then they're gonna do some more focused, like talking with the school district, and they all should be at that event too on Thursday night.
Yeah, because I think that would be a great way to get some input, or even like the guy that owns the bike shop in Wassa. You know, like people who are more active with them than me.
Yeah.
They would have, I guess, some more input on like, what does it look like in other places? What's worked and what hasn't worked.
I definitely think it needs pedals.
Yeah.
Looking at this little flyer thing in here that has like green e-bikes on it and some general facts, it says class 1 and class 3 e-bikes are allowed on many bicycle trails on DNR managed bicycle trailers, but they must observe a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. No throttle usage is allowed. E-bikes used without the motor engaged are allowed on all bicycle trails. And then there's a QR code to identify the list of DNR managed trails that allow e-bikes. I'd be curious to see if we could get someone from the DNR who would maybe share with us, because I'd like to know how they're enforcing all of that. I doubt Chief Hunt would want to put somebody out on the bike trail with a radar gun to see if people are walking over 15 on their bike. And from the law enforcement perspective, I don't know how I would ever be able to articulate that their throttle is being used or not, or if their motor is engaged while they're driving, because they're so quiet. So I guess I'd be curious if they're enforcing it, or if they are, how? Because I
My
don't.
guess is they enforce it similar to how they enforce trail passes. They just check, and while they're checking, they see if there's other issues they need to address.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the throttle usage is, have you seen that person's legs move in the last
Yeah.
Right.
100 feet, or are they just sitting there?
They have it up on the pegs and they're just cruising.
Yeah.
I want to put something that's like Chief said, like manageable to actually enforce, like, you know.
Like, if I'm summarizing some of the discussion, it sounds like we have a desire to limit modified e-bikes, to limit some of the places that they're used, that such as trails. And then maybe investigate the legality of how they're managed on village sidewalks and multi-use paths. That, did I do an AI summary of that?
I'm not opposed to a speed limit, and the reason why I say that is you live on Camp Phillips Road. If a squad comes by and sees somebody flying, they do hit them on radar and it does grab them and they are going 50 miles an hour on the trailhead. I don't have a problem with it because it's not like you're gonna actively do it, but like you just said, passes a squad car that could be an unmarked going 52 miles an hour and they fly by. There's some teeth in the game for us on that as well. So I don't think that's a bad thing to do.
How would you feel, chief, about maybe working with staff to kind of put together some ideas to bring back to us? Try to get us, like, we said, a place to start from.
And remember, the big thing is to target all this new stuff that's coming out, like these mini Tesla things, you know, these bikes that have foot pegs and they don't have pedals on them. And it's not to punish people that are legitimately going for a bike ride, and it's the other stuff that goes along with it, so.
Yeah, what about, segways?
I don't know the last time I saw one, but yeah.
I think that technology has fallen by the wayside. They don't go very fast.
Somebody got one or something, I think they ended up in the emergency.
Segways are attributed to a lot of deaths.
Really? That why I believe that.
Women riding a bike, not become riding a bike anymore.
Well, does anybody, I guess, want to make a motion to send this back to staff for?
Also said it,
Further
ask the
study?
staff to investigate what, could legally be done and to work with the chief to, bring ideas back next month.
I have a motion from Barb, any second?
I'll second.
Second from Katrina, any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Item number 11, discussion and or action on the Village of Rothschild's request for reduction in speed from 35 mile an hour to 25 mile an hour on Alderson Street from Weston Avenue to Edgewood Avenue.
I can take that if you want, Michael.
Go for it.
All right. So the Village of Rothschild recently changed the speed limit coming out of the new roundabout that was established on Weston Avenue at Alderson Street. There's been a large amount of complaints from people that live close to that. That is a very efficient roundabout. It's small, but it's quick. So when you come from the east, from Birch Street on Weston Avenue, it's 35 miles an hour. Come into the roundabout, if you go north on Alderson, it's 25. If you came south on Alderson Street, it's 35. And if you continued east, it used to be 35. Due to all the complaints, the Village of Rothschild changed the speed limit coming in from the east to 25 in and out. They also changed it coming south to Ryan Wood from Weston Avenue to 25. When they did that, they changed the western side, and the western side is north coming into the roundabout on Alderson Street. So the request is to change the speed limit from 35 to 25, and the reason behind it is to help manage traffic coming in and out of that roundabout because they come in so fast, and there's complaints that they're not really yielding. It's a tight roundabout to come in and out of. It very efficiently moves traffic. I've not seen a backup on there. At school time, you would see backups on there of traffic. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's just that efficient. So the request is on that one section, Rothschild has it southbound on Alderson Street. And on the south side of the roundabout, going north was Weston side. So Rothschild is requesting just that one small segment be changed to 25 from 35. And that slows traffic down on the entrance into the roundabout. And when they come out going northbound, they have to go 25. East, they have to go 25. But coming back, or west, coming back to the east, they can go 35. So that was the request on it.
So the item here says to Edgewood Avenue, but it sounds like Rothschild did to Ryanwood Avenue.
I must be wrong on that. It's Edgewood. Ryan would blend into me.
Edgewood is where the 25 mile an hour signs were placed by the Village of Rothschild.
Okay, because when I looked at Rothschild's agenda, it said Ryanwood, But then when I drove there today, the sign's basically between Ryanwood and Edgewood.
So when they changed the sign, they probably didn't pull the post, they probably changed the sign. I thought it was Ryanwood, that's what he said it, but in here it says Edgewood, but I'd like to see it the same as the Rothschild ordinance. Go ahead.
Sure, yeah, I guess. You know, as we talk about it, the Mallard Court one, you know, I guess. I'm not sure what prompted, you know, if it was the speeding concerns at Rothschild or not. You know, we try not to just raise and lower speed limits based on a factor, I guess, so. I'm not sure what process Rothschild used to decide if we should lower this to 25. I have no problem working with them to do that, I guess. I just feel like if we lowered this speed limit just to say, oh, we're doing what Rothschild did, you know, is there other streets where all of a sudden somebody else is like, well, you lowered that one, why didn't you lower mine? You know, that used to be a hard stop intersection, so it was 35 miles an hour to a hard stop. You know, now it's 35 miles an hour to a yield, if people are actually yielding, but you know. I guess that's my only concern is that we're following the processes that we historically have followed of, you know, what speed are people going, like. You know, were people starting to go 50 through there, or were people, you know, slowing way down to 15, you know? So that's my only concern is that, you know, we're not following the same process. If we just say, yeah, we'll go do it, then it's hard to then defend that same stance on future requests.
And I just want to say my stance, I'm good either way.
Yeah.
We as the police department don't change the speed limit, we enforce what has been changed, and that's what we enforce, so. I'm just explaining the Rothschild side of it because I've been through all their meetings and stuff with that. The only difference is it's coming up to an intersection, everyone has to stop or yield anyway. And the other fact is it was a reconstruct of the whole intersection. And when you do a reconstruct, there's different things that come up and it's tomato, I guess, in the situation because they all have to yield or supposed to yield coming through it.
As I avoid, I'll call this, roundabouts.
Or can you speak a little louder?
Okay, I avoid the, can you go around that at 35?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I was just gonna say, when I have gone through it, but I assure you it wasn't 35 miles an hour.
So if you, Michael will probably agree that roundabout was moved a little bit and it's kind of off center from what the old road was. If you're coming from Birch Street and you're going westbound, it kind of lines up that you can kind of get through that really, really quick on certain parts of that roundabout because of the way it was moved. But if you're gonna go around it to go, like make a left turn on it, yeah, you ain't gonna make that at 35.
Okay, well, I guess.
But I go through it regularly, and when you're coming through on Weston Avenue, I mean, you can get through there at 25 or 30 miles an hour. Cause it's just a short chicane, like in a race car.
I usually come down in Weston and hit Alderson and just go down that way, so I don't go the whole circle. But I was sitting there thinking, well, gosh, 25 or 35, I don't think you can go that fast through there. Anyway.
But it's a very efficient roundabout, and what is the goal of a roundabout? To be efficient. And as far as crashes, we hear about a lot of near misses in it, but we don't write crashes in that. If we've had one or two, that's it, but it's pushing a lot of, I'd like to know what the rate of traffic is coming through there on an hourly basis, but it's a lot.
I think that somebody said before when the kids were going to school or getting out, I don't know which, but he ended up, he couldn't get in it.
Sure.
And he had to sit and wait until everybody was through.
Yep, sometimes there's 3 vehicles that will come through at exactly the same time, and you have to be a little cautious, but is it a violation? It's all yielding, so everyone has to yield entering, and if you're in it already.
He said he couldn't get his, he had no option.
I think some of that's still people getting used to how to drive through them. I mean, I go through this intersection daily and even this morning, there was a car that stopped in the roundabout to wave in the car in front of me. So those are the situations that, cause the issues, the accidents, and then people start complaining about it. Cause yeah, there was 2 cars in a row that were coming and, the guy, I think, was trying to be nice and be like, oh, come in, but that
That's
wasn't the
super
purpose.
nice.
And, I lived off of Sandy Lane for almost 10 years too, and that roundabout, you'd encounter the same interactions over the years of, sometimes, yeah, there is a steady stream of traffic coming down Ross Avenue and you weren't getting in off of Sandy Lane for a while. But eventually the spots open up and you go, but I think, yeah, it's still a lot better than sitting at a stop sign waiting for a long line of traffic. Yeah, I don't know. To be perfectly honest, that part of this one that bugged me too was Rothschild went and changed the speed limit on a Weston Road. I drove past the sign myself personally and also I was like, hey, when did that speed limit change? So that's part of it too, is just,
And it wasn't the police department.
yeah, and it wasn't the police department.
I guess I'm still not sure what the reason was.
Did we have any residents that complained about this, or this is simply just a request from the village of Rothschild?
They all happen to the village board on the Rothschild side.
There were residents that live on Weston Avenue by that roundabout that were concerned about the signals.
Right, and the speed in the roundabout is suggested at 15, and some people think that's the real speed limit, but it's a suggested speed and. Yep, and then there's some people that think you have to stop entering it and it's a yield and there's some confusion on it, but.
And this, I guess, is it gonna create confusion for drivers where 25 is the speed limit everywhere but this one spot?
Oh, because when you come back to the east, it's 35 on the Rothschild side. When you get closer to Alderson's or to Birch Street and on the western side of that as well. So this is kind of confusing because it's a little bit multiple shared roadways between Weston and Rothschild there. So that's when they did the reconstruct. It was paid for by Rothschild and Weston to get it to go in. And it, like I said, if you change it, Rothschild will probably be happy because they don't have to change the sign back. If you don't change it, it's not on our end of it, so.
I guess unless we see if you feel there's a problem with it, I don't see any reason to change.
I don't either.
That's what I was wondering, like.
If they're having an issue with some speeding on that road, I think they need to do either, like we've been doing with all the other complaints we've gotten, either some heavier enforcement in the area, the cart that goes out, that flashes your speed. I think there's a bunch of other things we can do before we change the speed limit. Cause it's not gonna make a difference, in my opinion.
Well, I'll tell them to change the sign tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the only other concern I had was just the confusion about where it's currently placed compared to what the packet says, where the sign is, but.
Yeah. Well, the Weston ordinance says it's 35 from Shorey Avenue to Weston Avenue, so. I guess that would be the other thing. Somebody got pulled over, they'd be like, well, I'm in Weston and I was going the correct speed limit.
Are there any other thoughts, questions, motions?
I think you should have a motion on it to be clear on it.
So that it's,
Yeah,
A motion to leave it as it is. Well, once they put our sign back as it is.
So to have it back at 35.
35.
well, to maintain our ordinance as is.
Maintain, yeah. No change.
Okay. Motion from Olson. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Second from John. Any discussion? All right, if there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Any announcements? Remarks from committee members, Brent, Trina, John?
I just like to talk.
Or Kirk?
Just gonna mention the bikes, even if they're on the road, a lot of those don't follow, I mean, they'll go right through stop signs. you know, what I mean, if they're gonna be riding, they should obey the, cause I've seen so many of them, they just,
It's hard. I've personally stopped vehicles and they're like, I didn't know I had to stop for a red light. Yeah, you do. People don't have, they don't have to get the same level of education for bicycles as they do for others. Anything else? Great. Items for the next agenda, our next regular meeting date, we are not gonna have a meeting in December unless anybody objects. Otherwise, the next one would be Monday, January 5th, 2026 at 5 p.m. We still have those proposed or amendments to some ordinances that we were talking about. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to bring back other than what we've already discussed?
Other than, the bike.
E-bikes. Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
By Barb. From Katrina, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned at 6:21 p.m.
Are you gonna